Thank you everyone for tuning in. This is Robert Stage. I'm here with Dynamis Pod with Bob of RMS Diagnostics out of jolly old England. Thanks, Bob, for joining me. This is the maiden voyage of this podcast. I appreciate you being the first one actually to send a DM through when I sent the message out. Come through really quick, and we started talking. And since then, I've actually signed up about 4 more people this week. So it's going to
Nice.
go pretty quickly. It looks like.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be part of it, you know.
Yeah, if you would go ahead and explain to the audience a little bit about who you are and what you've done and that kind of thing, and give them a little bit of a backstory of Bob at RMS Diagnostics.
Okay, so me as actually RMS, we've been trading for sort of 18 years now, just do auto electrical side of the trade. Started as a motorcycle mechanic, then into cars, but then we just
Right,
went straight into auto electrics. One day it's like, I'm not mechanic anymore, straight into that, and that's all I
right,
wanted to do from that point on. And that was 18 years ago. And then just over a year ago, we were so busy, it's ridiculous. And I needed a way to smooth the business out, try and make it a bit better. And I watched somebody on YouTube saying you need to make a vlog, just one a week.
yep,
Try to make like a diary. What gets managed, what gets measured gets managed. So
sure,
if you say you're going to make a change by the next week, you won't let your viewers down, even if you've only got 2, but you'll let yourself down. So try and do that. And I was like, that sounds okay. And the channel sort of took off to a degree. You
yeah,
know, we're still small, but it built a lot quicker than I'd ever expected it to. And then I like talking, like waffling. So I wanted to do some sort of podcast. I sort of set this little studio thing up, and then we haven't managed to do it. Been really busy again. This is a point I want to start doing it. I see you come out, and I was like, right, let's get on yours,
right,
see what it's all about. So yeah,
yeah,
so
and
that's what we're doing.
that's wonderful. I really like that. I've been on approximately 23, 24 podcasts so far.
Okay.
I started out a long time ago. I've been in the industry about 33, 35 years, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I've kind of worked in every position that you could possibly think of, all the way down to floor sweeper, all the way up to service director at a Jaguar Land Rover store, everywhere in between. I've worked with Audi, I've worked with Volvo, I've worked with Jag and Rover, like I mentioned.
All
I
right.
worked in the aftermarket for approximately 18 years as a diag tech.
Yep.
Come up all the way through and used the Snap-on red brick. You're probably familiar with
Yeah,
that
that was
even
my
over in
first scan
England.
tool. Yep. Yep.
Yep, that was what I started with, and kind of took off from there. I did engines and transmissions for 2 years in the beginning of my career, and I kind of looked around and I thought, well, the guy over there has got 2 giant red Snap-on toolboxes that are actually bolted together. And I'm like, he's making great money every week. And like, well, what exactly is he doing? Right. So I started looking at that and started to try to get myself into that area. And I did work for Volkswagen for a while. As you see the hat, I
Yep.
decided to go ahead and wear this one. I did some testing the other day, and the blue actually worked really good with my eyes. So I figured I would go ahead and wear the hat again. I had a couple of people say that they liked it.
Yep.
So yeah, I can't believe the response, to be honest. I know there's a ton of podcasts out there, I thought, that actually kind of cover this information, but apparently it's pretty hot commodity. I've had,
It is.
like
Yeah. I
I
mean, the
mentioned,
automotive
3 or 4
side.
that I've signed up.
Really?
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
surprised how little. Well, definitely diagnostic side. How little podcasts are out there? Or not, not even podcasts, even YouTubers. You know, I have no
Right.
real competition in what I do because you got your Pine Hollow and
Yep.
a few of them over there.
Isaac or Ivan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Ivan's good.
amazing. Ivan Scanner Dano and Diagnose Dan
Yep.
and people like that.
Oh,
They're
Dan. Yep.
huge names, but
Right.
apart from that, I don't see anyone else popping up that you're competing against. And I don't even think there is any competition in it. You know, if people watch me, they're not going to
Right.
stop watching the next person. It's not like, you know,
Right. No, there's not.
so there's not enough of it out there to flood the market. So I'm happy to promote other people and do all that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, I don't think it's going to take them away from me. So,
No.
yeah, I think it's a really nice side of the trade to be in where you can
Right.
promote each other, not like the garage where you try to diss everyone else because you're the best. And so this side of it, I think it's a real nice sort of area to be in.
Yeah, I've definitely had my issues with trying to work with others and trying to make sure that, things are getting done also, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that the pie is this large, right?
Yeah.
that there is that much out there that people would come and just watch. And I kind of want to do a little bit of exactly what you said. I want to get myself a nice, vlogging camera and something like 6K, and also like a 64 megapixel, something really nice that I can go out and actually do some stuff with scan tools, that kind of thing. Because I'm an instructor now. So I'm
Okay.
able to go out into the shop area. I got keys for the shop. I can go in. I can do some videos in the evening, when no one's there, that kind of thing. And we have vehicles that are bugged. And then, of course, we have mock-up engines that you can bug pretty easily. You can just get inside and start poking around and shut some things off, and you can actually show those. And we're just now getting into doing GDI, which I'm really happy about, because in the industry, a lot of GDIs didn't necessarily go back a whole bunch in America. So there was not a lot of lab scope going on as far as doing scoping on them. So I'm glad to get into that. Started to show that to the students, and they're pretty excited. I try to explain to them, like, we're doing multi-port fuel injection, but that technology has been around since the 80s. So it's very, very old. I mean, I started in about 91, 92 when I started. And like I said, I did engines for 2 years, and I decided real fast I don't necessarily want to do that forever. You got to have some kind of plan for your body, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, do you know Mechanic Mindset? Have you seen Mechanic Mindset?
Yeah, I've seen him. I've liked a couple of the different videos. I honestly don't have a ton of time to watch a lot of the videos or even to interact in the different groups that I'm in, just because of trying to make sure that students are being taught and being taught the right way, that kind of thing. But I think it's actually a good thing. That way I'm not possibly just going over the same roads, right? I don't want to just continue on something that somebody else is already doing. I would like to make sure that what I'm doing is not a mirror of what someone else is doing.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, Mechanic Mindset, he was Jaguar trained, I think it was. And then he started recording after hours. Like you say, you got workshop available, cars available.
Right.
I think that's exactly how he started. But yeah, I was very concerned when we signed up to his course. We got an apprentice working with us, and I do watch some of his videos, and I didn't want to put any, like you say, mirror his stuff into mine. At the moment, I'm semi self-taught. I don't do training courses and stuff. So anything I put out on a video is come from me, whether it's
it's what you have learned.
Yeah. But again, sharing the knowledge what's out there, I think is okay, but last thing you want to do is go and sign up for 10 training courses, go and do them all, and then say I'm the best trainer in the world because I've learned off of other people. But
seems to be doing really good. So
yeah. But again, it's all learning curve with all this sort of stuff, isn't it? But yeah, that's good.
Yeah, this is my first foray into video editing, other than just posting things on the internet, right?
So do you edit anything? Do you?
Form.
Right. So you're just going to use this and edit it and have a play and see what you do.
Yep. Nice. I'm going to use this. We're going to put it out there, and we'll see how it goes. And I think it'll bring you people. I think it'll bring me people.
I'm hoping. The only thing
good thing all the way around.
With proper YouTube. So have you got a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I just posted to it approximately just a couple days ago, the very first little blurb that I put out. Yeah. And it was really bad. Like I said, I got the whole background thing coming, but I put it on there. I put it on Rumble. Substack. I got a bunch of different areas of things to put it on to, of course. Posted on Twitter. I put out there that I was trying to do a Twitter space maybe this month. I'd like to start doing 2 spaces a month if I can, just to supplement the podcast. See if I can drag some people over that maybe have never thought about even learning about automobiles. And if I could do that, I think that would actually help the industry quite a bit. There's a lot of, from what I can tell, there's a lot of technicians out there really upset over flat rate, the way that they're being treated, in management, all kinds of different things that are out there that I think is probably something that needs to be switched around. So
Yeah. No, sounds good. So, well, it looks like we're sort of back on track, doesn't it? We can edit what you want out of that.
Yeah.
So where was we? I can't remember what we were saying.
So we was right at, let's see, what would you say your number one revenue is for your company?
My main vehicle. I like French vehicles. Mm-hmm. Did you get many Peugeot, Citroen stuff in the States here?
No.
I bet you don't.
I'm familiar with them. I used to have an old Dodge Monaco that had a Peugeot 3-liter in it that was an absolute, it was a monster. You could not kill it. So,
yeah. So the good thing with French, when the electrical side was coming out, Renault were quite they were okay with it, but all German cars, every time they change model, even year of model, they change the whole system, every module in the car,
Right.
So you go from a 3 Series to a 5 Series, there's nothing the same. Even Mercedes, they all do it. Peugeot, Citroen, they're basically the same car with different clothes on. They design something, and even if it's slightly bad, they run with it right the way through their range, from the tiniest cars right to the mega ones. So once you understand that system, you understand all of them, and it's such a good, well, such an easy way to work on, because you know that this is how that's going to work, and it talks from your comm unit down to your BSI, your switch gear, your indicator stalks, and that's all one module as well. Your key talks to that then talks to your body control module, that talks to the engine, and you know that's how it works. And they're the only three real program parts. Not the underbody fuse box is not programmed, and that does your headlight, and it's just a nice basic thing. You can interchange stuff, and so we like them to do. I think my main income, not from vehicle make, is just the stuff what garages can't do. The garages always send me all their work. We get a fair bit of German stuff, but they're pretty good quality until they're not, and then it costs you a load of money. Very similar to Japanese cars. They just they're very reliable, and as soon as they go wrong, they're going to cost you twice as much. So
and you'll have to wait on parts. A lot of times you got to wait on parts. So it's not the best, is it?
No. So I don't know. There's no one week it can be a load of old Ford Transit vans. The next week, well, my next job's a 19 plate BMW M4, non-start. And there's no way of knowing what is good. You get the odd. So we have a Ford Focus over here, which the dash cluster fails on. We get loads and loads of them. And then by the time you worked out how to do them and how to fix them, they've normally gone. You don't see them anymore. Then you've got to learn something new for the new models. But all we actually do is electrical fault finding now. We've tried doing all the fitting work, the upgrades, all that sort of stuff, rewiring motorcycles, cars, everything. And it just stretches you too thin. So we do the fault finding. That's it. Just when the garages have plugged it in, they fitted the part, it didn't work. 9 times out of 10 now, since probably lockdown, the garages what used to try and have a go, and then they'd either fit the wrong parts or they'd take the job on and then bring it to me, and I'll be a third party involved. That's gone. They're so busy now. We got very huge sort of lack of technicians over here. So now they're so busy on their mechanical. As a customer comes into and they go, no, you just need to go to RMS, take your car down there. So we get it firsthand, which is lovely. And we're talking direct to the customer. You can get the right information out of them, and you can give them the right information, which is another thing where if a third party is involved, it goes wrong either way. So it's just the fault finding now.
Sometimes too.
Yeah, definitely. But and you'll say to them, we found that. Oh, the customer told me about that. Jesus, but what can you do? Or then you'll say, we've done up to this step. Go and try it. See how you go. We need to do this, and this step afterwards. If it comes back, they don't. They charge the customer. Say, it's all fixed. And then when it comes back, they go, but the customer don't want to pay now because I told them it's fixed. I told you. And again, communication breakdown all the way. So that's changed our company for the better. Dealing direct and your retail money instead of trade money.
Do the shops find that it ends up saving the money in the long run, just out of an efficiency standard?
Yeah, I mean they just, but they won't listen, especially when they see you do it quite quickly, and they go, and we're quite expensive as well compared to mechanical garages. So they go, he done that in a couple of hours, made a couple of £100 out of it, and we could have earned that. But when they're 2 days into it and they didn't find it, and I go, why did you do it? Why didn't you fit 4 clutches? You've got them sat outside. They're money making,
Yes.
You're turning them ones away for hopefully that you can find this fault, and you don't.
Exactly.
Sometimes they might trip over it, but if they're dedicated to it, just do it. Keep going. Find it and learn from it and keep going. But if you're just into it for a quick buck, send it to me and add an hour on. Just you'll make more out of that than you ever would out of turning your bread and butter work way. So big thing, stay in your lane, whatever you're doing and you're set up to do, just do that.
A long time ago when I was working at a shop, we used to sublet almost every single transmission that ever came in for that same reason. It's a different animal, right? It's why get involved in it, why tear it apart. You're not going to get the parts for it. It's a specialized type of thing. Just send it somewhere else, add $200 or $300 to it, and then you were done. And it came with a warranty. We got to actually transfer the warranty to the customer, and it worked really well that way. So you're exactly right. But I would think that training over there is probably like training everywhere. some of the shops don't want to send their technicians to it, and
Uh,
it can be quite expensive also. And there's not a lot of trained technicians out there at this point that have a skill set and a level that's high enough to do some of those jobs. And I remember seeing
uh,
it at some of the places I worked at. Same thing. You'd walk over, and a guy that was like 7 or 8 years into the industry had a scan tool hooked to a car, and he had the whole dash tore apart. And I'm like, well, what's going on with it? And they would tell me whatever it was, maybe it was something under the hood. They thought you'd seen a ground or whatever on the wiring diagram. So they just tractor beamed right over to that.
mm,
And then they have the whole dash out. And you're like, well, what are you trying to figure out? Well, the idle air control valve doesn't work, right? But it's like, what's bidirectional? It's bidirectional. Why didn't you just pull it up in a scan tool and try to run it? There's just a complete communication breakdown between what the technician should already know
mm,
compared to what some of the shops don't want to send them to go actually do,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
it
definitely.
becomes a real problem.
Yeah, we've got a big gap in
Hmm.
from people coming into the trade is, you know, a tenth of what it was when I was trained. I trained in '93,
Right,
so, but even what it sort of around 2000 was the first garage I went to, and he had 2 or 3 apprentices all the time. Now he doesn't have any. There's nobody
right,
coming in. All they're doing is full-time college courses, so you're actually learning nothing.
right.
You're not getting any hands-on experience. They think in
Nope.
3 years worth of going to college, they're going to be able to just walk into a shop and get full pay. And that doesn't
Sure.
work. And then there's other jobs available which are easy.
Yep.
So the 40-year-old mechanic who is struggling, he's aching and got aches and pains, and he can go and stack
Yep.
shelves for the same sort of money and have no stress and go home and go, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I've
They're all just going off to that. So
I've seen I've seen that here in the States because near Cheyenne, Wyoming, where we live at, they got a little bit of stuff. They don't have as much shopping and don't have as much things a lot of times. So we'll drive over there, and they will have a sign out on the local Walmart warehouse, the distribution center, and it's
yeah,
like $31.68 an hour.
really,
So, like you said, it's really bad when it comes to trying to keep people into the industry.
yeah.
Sometimes they don't get treated exactly right.
That,
Um, I've been
and the
to
passion
places
gets
before
knocked out
where
of them, doesn't it? The passion, what we got
right,
into it for.
it's
Yeah,
it's like a sale, right? It's just
yeah,
completely gone.
yeah.
And I've worked at places before where if you didn't make it to the bank by noon on Friday, your check might bounce, and
Really,
that's legitimate. And that
Jesus.
was that was in the '90s. That wasn't even a thing that was like way back in the olden times. Back when the dinosaurs roamed. It wasn't anything like that. It was like this is recent history, and you would have that kind of issue where the first 4 or 5 techs that made it to the bank got their
Got
money,
paid.
but the other ones that didn't, they had to wait till Monday or they had to wait till Tuesday to get it worked out. And then the
Yeah,
owner would have to pay, that kind of stuff. I mean, it happens.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
it's
and
kind of
then,
strange.
or like you say, you can go work for Walmart for that sort of money,
Yeah,
and it's going to be in the bank at the end of the week before
yeah,
you haven't taken a check down there. It's just,
yep.
so I don't know where the
And
trade's going to go.
some of them are let you take in early now. You can just get an advance on your check to have a little credit card that it goes on to, so you can get an advance on it. So it's even like if you get in a pinch, you can still have some money. So you're
Yeah,
exactly right. It's not even like they're just getting paid when they're supposed to. Now they're
no,
kind of getting prepaid.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
kind of
My
dipping
son's
into
just gone to
next
do an
week's check.
internship. Yeah,
Hmm.
my son done an internship with IBM computers.
Yep.
They're quite big over here.
Yeah.
I think they are. I think they're from the states, though. I think they
Yeah.
were from there.
International business machines. Yep. I
Yeah,
know who you're
yeah.
talking
So
about.
they're seventh biggest in the world still. So
Yep.
he's taken a year out of his university degree and he's done a
Sure.
year in industry, and they pay him up front because they know that
Yeah.
he needs to rent somewhere for a start and live there. And
Right.
they're like, yeah, they should check. We'll see you next month. And I'm like, Jesus,
Exactly.
can you really? But it's trust, and I suppose they know they're getting the right people in because they've put themselves out.
Right.
They're traveling 200 miles to move away from home to go and basically give their time to them for very little.
Exactly.
But yeah, so there are good industries out there what will do it. And we're in the motor trade. You've got to get your hands
Right.
dirty, kneel down, doing all this stuff, rolling around the floor, and we might pay you at the
Yep.
end of the week. It's
Exactly.
got
Yeah.
to
And you
change, isn't it?
might get paid. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah.
So to tools, we mentioned Snap-on scan tools earlier and that kind of thing. Have you looked at, or do you know if there's a lot of differences between tools that are in the UK as opposed to in the States? Is there anything different? I know there's some guys over here that use like Cardac 3, some, pretty much global stuff that can go in and do key programming and regular programming and all these types of things on these different computers.
Yeah.
Is it different over there?
There's different. I know there's different. So you must have Autel, do you? Do you have Autel?
Yeah, we have a bunch of Autel. Yeah,
Autel launch.
Top
So
Don.
Top Don's
Yep.
basically a launch. They haven't got their own factory. Launch have, but we're supported, and we're a big believer in ThinkCar. You must have ThinkCar over there now, do you? So a good friend of mine is ThinkCar UK. So we're going to a trade show with him Tuesday, the biggest trade show in the UK. We're going up there with him. So they will.
Auto Mechanic.
Auto Mechanica, that's what they call it.
Yeah,
Auto Mechanica.
That's it.
Yeah. So we're going up there for a couple of days.
Going there.
I see. Yeah, I haven't met him yet.
Yep.
So it'll be good to catch up with him. So we're going up there with ThinkCar. There's a lot of YouTubers get given ThinkCars from China, but they're marketed for either China or America or Japan, and they're not the UK market tools. So they end up sending them to UK or especially YouTubers, and they say, it doesn't work, but it's not designed for our market. The software. So when they send it to us, we get the UK spec software. So they know that we got Peugeots and stuff, and they're not going to add on all the cars that you got of your way into our tools. Exactly. There'd be no point. But no, so the big one. Do you remember AutoLogic? Did you have AutoLogic? You did have it.
Yeah, AutoLogic. I actually got in trouble for updating 2 tools one time when I was a service director at a place. I'll never forget.
So was that the big blue tool? Was it?
Yeah.
So they're a UK based company.
We had it because we had I don't know, McLaren all the way down to Volvo. They kind of dealt with higher end cars. We had a bunch of Porsche GT3s. We had some Z06 Corvettes that had like 10,000 miles on them. Had a bunch of that. We had a Ferrari 812 Superfast at one point that our owner actually drove off into the ditch one evening and did like $22,000 worth of damage in it, just into a ditch, right? So yeah, we had those, and then I updated them. Had a company credit card. Had keys, to the building and all that kind of stuff. I was a service director, and we had to update it. We were stuck. The customer's car that we had it on, the poor lady, the tool locked up in the middle of a program. It just stopped because it hadn't been updated in 3 years.
Right.
And I'm like, I already sent an email to the CFO. I already sent an email to the owner. There's no one else above me other than the GM, and the GM didn't know a ton about it, but he knew about it. And I was like, you know what? I got to pull the trigger. It's $2,300. And you get pulled on the carpet about that. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You have a customer that's downstairs that she can't drive her car now, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I made the right decision because we're trying to be customer centric and make sure that they can leave with their vehicle that we were putting a program into. Yeah. So I remember AutoLogic very, very well.
Yeah. So they were a UK company. And we got taken up there by James Dillon. Do you know James Dillon? He's a technical trainer over here. He's one of the biggest in the country. AutoLogic said to him, get some top techs together. Let's show them around our place. You do a bit of a training course. We'll pay for that. We got given a load pro at the same time. So a little bit of a collaboration thing.
Dan Sullivan's tool, ain't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's Dan Sullivan. I remember that. I used to follow him on LinkedIn a long time ago.
Yeah.
I actually owned a load pro. I sold it once I got into the school. I had all these tools to use, so I didn't necessarily need it any longer.
No, exactly. But no, that's
tool.
It is great tool.
Got a shunt. Got a shunt in it with a button.
Yeah, you just have it in, and it's really good for showing what it is on a video as well. You do it, and when I'm teaching my apprentice, go watch this. Look at the voltage. Now the voltage is gone. So yeah, great little tool. So it all just sort of worked out well. And at the time, AutoLogic showed us around, and they literally had 8 desks. They'd have 4 programmers one side, 4 top technicians the other side. Master technicians, and you could phone them about anything. You got BMW, and they did, like you say, very specific high-end cars, Porsche, Mercedes, and you would speak to a Porsche technician and a Porsche programmer, and if you needed something, they would program for it. It was an amazing tool. And then I knew something was happening. I nearly signed up for the tool. A friend of mine did sign up for it. They leased everyone up the tool, and then they pulled the plug on it and went to a different tool, which is the newer one. So it went away from the blue box. Right. And I remember seeing some American people talking about the AutoLogic, going, it's an amazing tool, And I kept thinking, is that the same as the one we've got over here, what's been slated recently? Right. And I was the first one over there. I said, is it the same one as what we got? He said, no, I don't think it is. I said, well, as far as I know, they're not supporting that tool anymore. You can't get your technical data. You can't do that. They're moving on. And he said, no, it can't be the same tool. Next night you come on there. Yeah, I've just been on to AutoLogic Direct and we're not getting the support and all.
Yeah.
Sorry to break the bad news to you. Yeah, so it's amazing that we've got a tool company which come to yours, how small we are.
Yep. You probably you've been in the industry long enough to remember the old 4-channel 4-ground Intero, the old 4-channel lab scope.
No,
You
we
remember that
only have a
thing?
Pico over here.
Yes, it's a
Everyone
Pico. So
pushes Picos.
that tool actually came from the UK, if I remember correctly. It was an Intero made in the
Really?
UK, and it literally had the 3.5 by 3.5 inch little small pixel screen on it. But the
Right?
tool was about it was the size of like a DRB3 for like Chrysler. It was about that size. But
Yeah.
the big thing was it had 4 grounds also. So if you ever this would almost never happen, but if you ever had to, you could check 4 ABS speed sensors at the same time
Yeah.
because it was true RMS. So everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you gotta have that, you gotta have that," and it was like $1,800. That was actually pretty cheap, I thought,
Yeah.
even back in the '90s, because we had all these Bosch fuel injectors that went bad all the time, and I teach about them all the time in school. I
Yeah.
tell the students, I'm like, "You have it. You don't know how good you have it," because like back then it was like you were literally blind. You were
Yeah.
trying to find out what was wrong with it, but ohms testing was not the best test,
No.
and we didn't have any scopes. There was very few of them, and I stumbled upon the Intero through a class. I was
Yeah.
lucky enough to take a class, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, this thing does this, and here's what it does." And we ended up, I was able to talk the boss into buying one,
Yeah.
and we use it all the time. It
A
was a great
problem is
tool.
with the scope, you've got to use it all the time to get
Yeah,
the benefits out of it. Frank Massey and James Dillon over here, they were both big technical trainers. And again, they pioneered their own ways of doing tests. So
right.
they could watch the injector move and ramp up and hit the needle
Yep,
and, do all that side of it. But that was their own sort of pioneered sort of testing scheme, and
right,
it was good. But I try not to do much engine running faults now. If it's got an injector not firing or a fault on even a little coolant motor or something like that, we'll get
right,
that deep into it. But when it gets to emissions related airflow, and you can have that's again, I think that's a trade on its own to a
right,
degree, like you're saying about the GDIs and things like that. It's you've got to dedicate your time to just doing that. You can't be as good as you need to be to do that and know how to
right.
check brake light circuits and blower motor faults. You can't do everything, so
You should see the looks on students' face when I teach them. We teach everything that we teach in 12 weeks. So for
right.
me, it's 12 weeks. What I do is phase one for 6 weeks, phase two for 6 weeks, and it basically starts at the very bottom of the ladder. Ohm's law, using using a should say the Snap-on 525F. We teach them all that. We do NC3 training for it, and then it just goes from there, right? And then we build upon that in phase two. But after it's literally fire hosing them with information,
Yeah.
and they're so overwhelmed, like it's so much that we're trying to teach them, right? But
Yeah. So
it's like once they get out there, hopefully they do get their hands on these tools again, like
yeah.
you were saying, and they actually continue to do it. One of the problems that I found out over here is people have these really nice Pico scopes at the dealership. Some of them are even branded. They'll have
Mhm.
GM on it or have Ford or Toyota, but no one uses them
No.
because they don't know how to use them. So it just sits over in some cabinet and it doesn't get used.
Yeah. Exactly. So
Happens a
the
lot.
training, what you do, your module of it is just part of the mechanical
It's
course. What's that? Is it like a 2 or 3
all
year course or
engine
something? Is it?
it's engine management systems. Also, though, I teach all the way down into engine theory, the mechanics of it, the oiling system, lubrication, coolant. We go through the whole thing. So if
Right.
they've never taken a high school course over here, where they maybe took like an old Briggs and Stratton apart or something like that, we have motors on stands where we take them apart and we put them back together, and we do it over and over again a couple times, sometimes in the phase, just to make sure that they're working on stuff, make sure that they understand that they have to move all day long, because that's another thing I push really hard. And
Mhm.
I was sending emails this morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, why are you guys' homework done? They got 5 people that done homework. I got another 16 or 17 people that haven't done it. It's Sunday morning, right? Like, I don't stop,
No.
but they have to have that drive, because once they leave, if they don't have that drive, they don't eat.
No. No. Exactly.
The food's
So
gone, right?
yeah.
Because everyone wants to pay flat rate.
Yeah.
Even the aftermarket shops love to pay flat rate. I've worked both. I've been on both sides of it, and there's pros and cons to both sides of it. I can honestly say I never made as much money as I did when I was on flat rate, because I
Yeah.
had a different style work ethic. I treated it like a factory, and I tried to run cars all day long.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and
we
some
don't really
people
have
just
a
don't.
flat
They don't
rate.
move that way, right?
Yeah. We the only thing we have is in the dealerships you'll be on a bonus, so you still get all your standard money and then a percentage above that. I've never worked in dealers, I couldn't even tell you how it works. But yeah, I see you lot talking about flat rate mechanics all day long, and funny that's what I want to discuss with Lucas Underwood. Is he talks about it a lot, doesn't he? And it'd be good to see what the difference is between the way we run ours and what you do over there.
And see, I've been a manager over a couple guys that worked for me at Volvo, and they were on a tiered program where they made a certain dollar amount up to 40 hours. And if they turned that, that's what they made. But if they got to 41 hours, if they got to 40.05 hours, it didn't matter. Then their rate went up for the whole 40 hours.
Right.
So we would do that. And then we would do that on 3 tiers. So I had one guy one summer at a small Volvo dealership, and I was paying him like $8,000 a month.
Really?
And he was a great technician because he'd take everything, he did stuff right the first time, and it was done. So he was always caught up. And that's what I always tried to be. I had to try to have 3 or 4 cars always in the mix, something working, and hopefully some of my estimates had gotten sold. And then I would be working on stuff at the same time, trying to make sure that I kept that. I always thought of it like a wave, right? Like a churn. It's a little up, but it's a little down, but it needs to be way up here like an amperage ramp would be, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I always treated it like I need to keep the cars coming.
Yeah, you don't want on the floor,
I try to teach that. No. Not only that, it's boring, right?
Yeah.
If you're just at work, and I've had that job before. I've worked aftermarket. I was flat rate. We were taking 3 or 4 cars a weekend for 3 people. And I'm like, that's not enough cars. We had 2 people up front. So I'm like, there's a complete upside down. The monster's head's too large, right? It can't walk because its head's too large. And I would get into these arguments with them. I'm like, why aren't we doing more cars? And then Saturday they'd have like 10 cars. And they'd make the excuse, well, Saturday no one works, and that's our clientele, so we'll work on it. And I'm like, well, that's not good management.
It's just literally just down to management. But I like the way you said that the monster's head's too big. I like that.
Yeah. It just bounces around. It can't it's not agile. It can't turn on a dime, it can't make any decisions. All of a sudden it gets that paralysis, the analysis paralysis. And it's done. You can't do anything. And that happens quite a bit in most of the industry over here, but definitely the automotive industry.
Oh, I didn't realize how bad it was over here until a friend of mine was asking me, and he's got a body shop and a garage at the same time. And I think there's something like 30 staff there and 7 people on the floor. 7 people making money for 30 people.
Yeah, that's
2 to 1 ratio near enough, Yeah, it should be completely the other way around. One person to 2 or 3
for disaster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, the doors get locked and no one comes in anymore all of a sudden, and no one gets their paycheck.
Yeah.
So that's what happens to places like that.
Yeah.
So I would wonder what's the generational gap between the beginning of the business and the end of the business. How old is the business? Do you know?
It's about 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've just watched a bunch of lectures on that kind of stuff, and typically they don't go 3 generations. By the 3rd generation, was died. And 20 years is almost right on the money, between 20 to 30, right?
Yeah, we spoke about it, and I was like, that needs to change, flip on its head. You need 14 people working.
Yeah.
But again, another friend of mine just
not enough people pulling the wagon, right?
No, that's it. Yeah. A friend of mine's just taken on the garage, and it's got a massive showroom in it, and this and that and that. Yeah. But the actual workspace is like 4 bays. I said, well, that can't sustain this. You've got 50 car parking spaces and all it, but you got 4 bays. They're the people who are making the money. The rest of it is all just show.
Yep.
They're not bringing in any money.
I started out in a 4-bay shop, Bob. I was an apprentice also. I didn't go to school. So I was self-taught for the most part and got to go to training. But I remember, we were doing $250,000 a year with 3 workers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't terrible. Everyone was getting paid. People were making money. Customers' cars were getting fixed. That was the main thing. And we were doing it. But like you said, if it's 4 bays and it's got all that additional real estate that's not actually doing anything, making money,
So my shop's a 6-bay shop, but there's only 2 of us there. I cannot get anyone to do the job what I do.
Right.
I'm training somebody at the moment who's just fallen on his feet. It's worked well. Just when I lost a member of staff I've had for 12 years, he's come in, begged me for a job as a 20-year-old lad, and he can do it.
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, he's definitely it'll be part of the business for a long time.
Right.
But we are a big thing of work-life balance, which is a real hard thing to get. We adopted our granddaughter
Oh,
4 years ago, and now that is it. Sort of lockdown's happening, that was happening, and then my wife's
Yep.
like, "You're not going back working 5 or 6 days a week. You
Right.
put your prices up, slow the business down,
Yep.
and just fix the cars you want, work for the people you want." And
Yep.
we're making a lot more now than we ever had. But yeah,
Yep.
I'm not just going to take on work to fill the shop up. And
Right.
again,
No, you can't.
the sort of floating jobs, what you're saying about, you got to have something to drop back onto. We had that a couple of weeks ago, and we was booking 3 cars a day for 2 of us. We
Right.
used to do 4 cars a day. When we had my main man with me, we do 4 cars a day, and that's full diag, strip down. If you've got a strip of wire and loom out, it might go to the next day, but one of the cars the next day might be a 2-hour job, so it's not an issue.
Sure.
But
Trying
recently,
to keep a good flow.
yeah, nice flow. So with
Yeah.
me trying to do the videos as well and having my apprentice there, it works well with 3 cars a day. And then for about a week, people were phoning me up with non-starts and stuff. So yeah, just send it down. We'll have it in the car park and we'll jump on it as and when we can. But then we couldn't move. I didn't stick to my own process to get one car in. You're moving 4 or 5, and we've got a fairly big car park as well. And it was just over. And then the customers would phone. That's why you've had my car there a week and you haven't touched it. I was, no, but we was booking for 3 weeks ahead. But we allowed you to put it in our car park. So when it gets done, it will get done. And they don't understand that. And I was like, just stick to our 3 cars a day. Maybe have 1 or 2 floaters, but that's it. Don't just keep sending them down. But we put these processes in place and don't stick to them ourselves.
And that happens a lot, right? I mean, the whole entire thing is people and processes. That's it. I mean, once you get past that, the rest of it's all icing on the cake, Yeah. But you're exactly right. I mean, if you make the thing and you don't end up sticking to it, it's really tough to try to get the outcome that you were looking for, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's never going to work.
Yeah. No. Well, that's good that you found somebody, though, that's 20 years old, especially because, when I was 20 years old, I was 3 years in, and I was still wrenching on heavy stuff,
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, I knew I wasn't going to do that forever. There was no way. So I wanted to make sure I got myself into another position where I could do kind of what you've been doing. And then, moving into doing what I do now at a younger age. I'm 49 now. So, and I've taught now for 2.5 years. And it's been amazing.
And that's all you do full time now, is it, teaching?
Full time teach, about 44 hours a week, something like that. Salary job. And you show up, you teach your students, proctor the tests, make sure no one hurts each other, right? That kind of stuff. And everyone learns. That's the other thing. They have to learn.
Yeah.
And I try to make it fun. I don't think it needs to be so Prussian school, stand here, do this, go over there, don't do this. Hey, what are you doing over there? I'll mess with them. I'll push them around a little bit, joke and stuff. But it's like they still understand at the end of the day, there's a job that you have to do here because you're preparing to go outside of these walls and do it somewhere else.
So how long will their course last from start to finish, from the time they start with you to the time
total? Okay. 9 months total for the shortest period of time that they can be there.
Yeah.
So that's basically a drivetrains course at 6 weeks long, a chassis course at 6 weeks long. That's my course is 12 weeks long. And then whatever specialty that they take is another 12 weeks. So they got like street rod, they got the HPPT, which is high performance powertrain. They got engine dynos. They have rear wheel dynos, that type of thing. I think they even have an all wheel drive dyno too. So they do that kind of stuff also. They also have a paint and collision and a diesel program. So heavy diesel in the other building. So and they're getting ready to expand. It looks like they're trying to build a third building. The buildings that we work out over about 90,000 square feet. So it's a pretty large place.
Yeah. So when I was at
300 employees, I think.
All right. So fair size place. Yeah. I mean, when I was at college, we had an hour a week. We used to do block release, so we'd travel about 200 miles, and we'd be down there for 3 weeks, and then come back and work at the garage for 6 weeks, and then back down there.
Sure.
And we had an hour a week to do the electrical side, and literally everyone just glazed over. Nobody was interested in it, and it's just keep the lecturer talking as much as we can about something else, and hopefully we won't learn too much. And
exactly.
I don't know if you're finding that you got the person who wants to do it, which I was the one. I was like, that's easy. I understand all this. Let's learn something. And the other 9 people in the class were like, no, let's just keep him talking.
What I have found is the course that I teach personally it's a lot of information, like I said. So what ends up happening is everyone, and I'm usually the first class they see when they come to the school because my class is a prerequisite to get over to HPPT or some of the things that they got to get into as far as the specialties, right? So I'll get them first. So they come in, they're fresh, they're happy, they're bouncing around, but they don't know each other yet. So I'll get them all into class, and usually the very first thing I'll ask them is what, did everyone show up to a funeral or what? Because no one knows each other. There's no speaking, no talking. Everyone's very, they just kind of sit to themselves. And then I try to make sure I get them to start breaking out of that as fast as possible because sometimes some of these students never been away from home before.
Yeah.
They've been with mom and dad the whole time, or they've been with their grandma or grandpa, and it's like this is a whole new thing for them, right? So I think our average age is 19,
Right.
so 19 years old. And then I've taught people that's been 16 years old if they've graduated high school early or got their GED because we accept GED. I teach them. And then I've taught all the way up to 47 years old, so just a couple of years younger than me. I had a guy come in one time. I've done a bunch of other stuff in his life, wanted to change, wanted to work on cars, really loved cars, very passionate about them. He took the course. So I think I taught him as soon as I got there. That's the oldest gentleman I've ever taught so far.
Yeah.
We are co-ed, so we do male and female. So we've got a really low amount of females. It would be nice to see a little bit more females come into the school being interested in it. But looking at psychology, it's a people and things thing, right? It's not always something that maybe females want to do. If they grow up around it, if their dad was into it or an uncle, it's a lot more bigger chance that they will come into it. But they usually come in and do really well. So
a friend of mine employed two at the same time, and he said they had no ego. I don't know how to do this. Can you come and show me? Yep. He said the lads would have just been in there trying to use what they can to prove that they can do it. And the guys go, I don't know this. Can you help me? Like, yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah, thanks very much. And off they went.
Exactly. I always joke with students. I always tell them there's no stupid questions, only stupid people.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I laugh, and I'm like, just come and ask me. Like, I'm not going to treat you like you're stupid for you not knowing. Like, you don't know. There was a point in my life I didn't know. So it's even, right? It's an even playing field for me. I think the same way.
Yeah,
so,
it
is nice when someone comes in and they've kind of pushed ego to the side. And like, even if they've already worked on cars sometimes, it's sometimes best to maybe push it aside and say, maybe I was taught in a different way that maybe is not by the book or by the, SI. Got to have service information now. And I explained that to them. When I was a youngster doing this, 1-834-5672, that was almost all you needed. You just needed Chevrolet's firing order and Ford's, and I'm pretty sure Dodge actually mirrored one of the two. So you didn't have to know a lot. And everything came in books. It wasn't on the cloud. It wasn't any of this, easier stuff to do. And in a lot of ways, it's become more complex, but in a lot of ways, it's become a lot easier to work on cars. So I try to teach them that.
Yeah. We did have. It was hard back in the day doing proper work like that, But now, everyone looks under a bonnet now and goes, "Oh, you can't even see the engine now." I remember when I used to be able to decoke my own car.
Yep.
They never done it. They've seen somebody do it, maybe, but there was a lot more room under there. But now they're just bolt-in engines, great engines, and that's going to last 100,000 miles.
All on purpose, right? It's just to keep average Joe from getting underneath the hood and looking around, poking around with his finger and messing with stuff. And I get some of that. I mean, we have a big issue here in the States about the right to repair. Have you ever heard of that? There's a bill.
We have, yeah.
Through Congress.
So that's automotive side, is it? Or for everything now? Right, okay.
Yeah. So I guess it started with John Deere tractor, though, which is
I've heard a lot about John Deere. They're pushing hard
selling these units, and they said, well, if you touch it at all, it's out of warranty. Well,
that can't be right, can it?
Right? No, it can't be right. I mean, the bank owns it. But you own it, right? It's in your name. You're responsible for paying for it. But you can't even hire someone to look at it. Come on, that's completely.
If they open the floodgates of it, a lot of people will follow suit, won't they? But I remember one of the last publications I read about them, probably 4 or 5 years ago. They were saying you own the metal, but you don't own the software. We own the software now, and if they can hold that bit back,
with BMW.
Yeah, well, John Deere were pushing for it hard, and they lost. Again, but I don't know how.
Kind of stuff. They need to keep losing because that's someone at the top is making some really bad decisions.
The problem is, so when I got into this trade 18 years ago, this side of the trade, there was invite-only forums to keep everything away from the public eye because we all want to learn off each other, but we didn't want it going out onto just the normal public forums where people can fix their own cars.
Yeah, it can't be open source. Can't be open source at all.
No,
you gotta keep the money. Yep.
When now I've started the YouTube, which was only a year ago, I was like, I was very conscious of that. So I don't put anything out where you can Google or search a fault code and it will come up with me fixing that type of fault on it. I'll just say, it's a blow motor fault or a non-start or whatever. So mine's an entertainment channel more than use mine for reference.
More than the educational side, sure.
Yeah, apparently a lot of garages watch my stuff and they like the way I do it and they're learning from me. So that's good luck to them, know. But I don't think people work on their cars now. I think people will watch mine as entertainment and wouldn't even consider getting under a bonnet of a car anymore.
Right.
I don't know what it's like in the States, but over here, I could give all the information out. This is how you fix this thing, and they'll still go, yeah, I'm taking it to my garage. Because I think days of tinkering have gone.
Right. Well, and it's a thing with there's a lot more stuff taking people's time up right now, right? Like social media, and there's a lot of different things to do. Air conditioning, huge thing, right? Especially if it gets hot outside. No one wants to go outside if they don't have to. A lot of people work in air conditioned places now. Even shops now are air conditioned. So a lot of that has something to do with it. They just don't want to mess with it, right? But over here, we've got some places that are getting $220 to $300 an hour for customer pay work with luxury stuff. When I ran the service, the drive at Jaguar Land Rover, we were one of the highest ones in the city where I came from, and it was a small city. It was only 1 million people, and it was about $179 an hour for customer pay.
Yeah.
So it gets quite expensive. However, I never had anybody there even ask me how much it was per hour. You gave them the parts price, the labor breakdown. Here is how much it is. Would you like us to do it? Right. And I never had anybody say, well, what about this? No one ever said that. Yeah, go ahead and fix it. When can I have it back? That was usually what you got. Or do you have a loaner car?
Yeah.
Can I get a loaner? Right.
Yeah.
We got that a lot.
I've increased my prices recently a few times. I've never had anybody complain about the price. It's just, how quickly can you do it? That's all they're interested in.
I think the industry, I was just reading about this the other day. I think the industry's like really, really behind on what other specialized industries do. And I wrote a piece about this a long time ago in 2017 about what it actually takes to be a very top level technician. And you have to be a lot of things. It's not just fix the car. It's you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're an HVAC person, right? You have to diagnose noises and faults and all different kinds of things with the engine. You have to change coolant. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that go into it. And like you just said, most people, they really keep their hands clean, not mess with it at all. Yep. So, and the price is quite expensive. However, they'll go ahead and pony up and pay it. But I think we're way behind.
We definitely are.
Like the inflationary, the movements.
Yeah,
we're lagging quite far behind.
Yeah, so. A friend of mine's got a workshop, and he used to do parts. When he steered away from having his parts shop and audio stuff, he got rid of all that. Then he ended up selling push bikes and cycles. And people go in there to have their cycles repaired and serviced and upgraded because the Tour de France are using this type of gear set or whatever. And he'll hear the service technician or the service manager phone the customer up and say, it's £600, £700, £800 to have your bike serviced and fit the bike. And they go, thanks very much. We'll be down in a minute to pick it up. And he's like, I wouldn't do that to a car. I'd be devastated. Yeah.
It's the same way here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, but if I phone them up telling me £200 for their car, then I'm scared to pick up the phone.
Some of these bicycles that are over here, these people spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a bicycle now. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. I think the most expensive one I think I've ever owned was about $800 or $900, and it probably wasn't worth that. But I mean, I promptly got rid of it. I mean, I didn't end up keeping it for a really long time, but it's crazy. Same thing. I have a friend that I used to get some leads from for mechanical work. I run a mobile business for about 2.5 years. And all he did was mobile oil change. He did no mechanical whatsoever, no battery, no anything. So all I had to do was treat his customers right. He'd give me all the leads that I possibly could do in a day, in a week, in a month. And I had fleet accounts, stuff like that. You would watch this whole thing, that they would say, oh, yeah, do this, do that. Go ahead and fix this one. Yeah, go ahead and do this. I stayed busy all the time. So, and my rates were, I just made them commensurate to what our surrounding shops were. That was close to what I would do. So I went with whatever they were charging per hour. I added like $5 to it as a convenience, to me having to drive there to do it. But I did that.
That's the
several
best thing
times
ever.
in the past.
Over here,
Yeah.
they lower it. They say, oh, we'll be able to do it cheaper because
No.
we're mobile and we haven't got overheads. And we're like, you're giving them the convenience, charge
Yes.
extra. And they
Yeah.
don't, and they compete against each other, and it's a race to the bottom for them. You know, the mobile
It
mechanics
is.
over here.
It is. It's definitely a race to the bottom. I tell my students all the time, this mobile thing, that's all well and good, but like I explain to them, if you go to the convenience store and you buy a gallon of milk, it's $8 a gallon, but you could get it down the street at another store for $3.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
Like, what exactly do you think you're paying? It's the same milk.
Yeah.
It's convenience.
And if
I
they
thought I
deliver
was
it to your
pretty
house,
fair.
if they're bringing it to
Right.
you, so you haven't got to get up,
And-
you're paying another load of money.
And they do that now.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like, people can literally be hermits, never speak to another human being, never touch grass, never do anything. All the memes, right? And they just live that way.
Yeah.
It's like pod people. They're pod people.
And then it's going to be
amazing.
them virtual reality headsets are coming out soon. You know, they're all banging on about that. They won't
It's
be.
so funny you said that.
It will be the
watched a guy
Matrix.
on Facebook. Yeah, last night I literally seen that on Facebook. A guy's playing a game where he's in a F-22 cockpit and he has the whole roll around chair, right, and the stick, and he's got the VR headset on. I don't know how long these people can do that, but this guy was doing this thing for like 10, 15 minutes, and I'm like, I would throw up by now.
Yeah.
I could not do that.
Have you never tried one on? You never tried one?
No.
My son had one, and it was a basic game. You're just in this room, moving stuff about, getting used to the controls.
Sure. Right.
And when you're in it for 10 or 15 minutes, you're immersed. And
Right.
you take it off, and you're like, oh, there's a world here. Could you imagine being in that for weeks and days and months, and all your friends are in there, and, you know...
I try to stay on the cutting edge of training, and apparently BMW uses augmented reality to train, which is absolutely smart to do because it cuts way down on having to have mock-ups and all these types of engines and cars that are cut in half and all that kind of thing. You don't have to deal with any of that. It's all computer now, and they'll have their technicians actually use augmented reality. I can't remember where I seen it at. This has been about 2 years ago. Really? This is almost maybe even before I even started as an educator, we'll call it, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty
It's
wild.
a scary world out there.
Technology has moved so far, so quickly that I'm not sure we were made for it, to be honest.
No.
Even what we're doing right now. My dad would have an absolute, he'd just be dancing a jig right now because he would get tickled if his CB caught Anchorage, Alaska on skip, just an old regular citizens band. He didn't have a ham and he had no license, but here you and you're talking to me and you're in the UK and I'm in the United States and we're talking on an actual cable that's under the water. Isn't that amazing?
It's
unbelievable.
I went to an electronic museum yesterday. Took my son there. He does computerized stuff.
Right.
And there was a microfiche. Remember what microfiche was?
Yeah, I used microfiche at a parts store.
Yeah.
I worked at a parts store when I started at 17.
Yeah. So when I was a motorcycle mechanic, we used a microfiche to look up the part numbers, to find out what parts you needed. And I was showing him. Funny, it had a General Motors Mini, the original Mini parts fish in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's what I used to do. I said, but you only had two people you could phone. You'd phone up for them parts. You'd phone up your local dealer and then the bigger one in the UK. That was it. If they didn't have one, you don't know what to do. They might do a bit of searching about and they might have a network that will take you 4 or 5 days to get them parts through. Right. And the networking we had was, like I say, in the motorcycle trade, you'd have a couple of shops around you. You'd phone them. If you got one in stock, you got one in no, and then that was it. But nowadays, you're straight on your phone. There's somebody 500 miles away who's going to send it down to you, going to have it by the morning. How did we ever trade on microfishes and a phone call?
Yeah, it's actually really amazing, to be honest. It's unbelievable that it even existed at one point like that. I still remember changing crystals in radios.
Right.
My dad was a big person that went to the auctions all the time. And he would buy these big, giant console televisions and radios, that was used to take up half your living room.
Yeah.
And he'd just go up to the local Radio Shack over here and buy some crystals for it, take it home, plug them in, works, take it back to the auction, and make money on it.
Yeah.
So it was the best of both worlds. You got to mess with it, a little bit of electronics, a little bit of fun, solder something back in, and then take it, make more money off of it.
Them days are gone. Yeah, and that's why people don't work on their own cars. They don't play with their own bits, And you've got to train somebody who's never. Well, you look at the way look at the way you learnt from your dad doing that, seeing that from a young age, and you took that on. Now you're seeing a 16, 17-year-old coming out of school, opened a bonnet on a car, never seen inside a TV, and they go, I need a job.
Yep. And I always tell the students, I'm like, anyone that gets in a car now, All they know is I have the key fob in my pocket and I hit the push button, and if it starts, I get to drive it. If it don't, it's chaos. I
Yeah,
don't know anything at that point, right? And it's like,
yeah,
oh, what happens? And or they hit the key and they can drive it. That's all they know.
that's it.
That's it. And some don't even know how to operate the vehicle.
No, no. And funny if they talk about that with the service advice, not the service advice, the when you go into your dealership and you get the coffee and you get the pretty girl
Right.
taking all your details. That's the only experience you get from having a car service now.
Right.
When you used to
Yep.
take your, in the 90s, you take your car in for a service, it'd come out running different. You'd get an
Right.
experience from the service. Now you
Yeah.
get
You
nothing.
you knew
Like you say,
something
you get in
happened.
it, you got your fob in your pocket, you press the button, it's running. You go into the service,
Yep.
you come out, you paid $600, and it's still the same. And all you've
Yep.
got is a nice cup of coffee and a pretty woman behind the counter. That's the only experience you
There's
had.
there's some places over here now that don't even do that. Now it's a kiosk. You walk up
No.
to the kiosk and you put your name in. I kid you not. You put your name in and you get put into a queue, and then they come and get you. Someone does get your keys, and they don't really even almost write the car up. It doesn't even get written
Really?
up. So for someone who was a service advisor, a couple different brands, and
Mm.
even as a service manager and a director, I still had to write cars up. I was
Yeah.
a working manager, right? That's always the funny joke over here is you're a working manager. Yeah, no shit. All managers have to work in some shape or form, right? Of course, I'm a working manager.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's the thing. Now it's kiosks. Now it's
That's
become more and
amazing.
more robotic.
Yeah,
So
I know our
it's
dealerships. They're
crazy.
trying to take part of that off of them as well now. So you've got your showroom and all your cars there, and
Right.
apparently now you're just a demo person. And
Yep.
once they've said, "Yeah, I like that car," then the manufacturer takes over. They sell them the car.
Yep.
You're not part of it anymore. You're not the franchise
Nope.
dealer. You're just a demo agent.
Yep. And honestly, Tesla's the one that really started pushing that
Right?
because they just you can send it right through the internet. You can order it how you want it, and they'll take a truck and send it to you. And you
Mm.
don't have to talk to a salesperson. You don't have to deal with any of the haggling on price or any of that
Yeah,
stuff or
yeah,
the upsell. You get
yeah.
to pick what you want on the vehicle. F&I is completely taken out of it. They're
Mm.
gone.
Yeah,
So then you just, you're buying the vehicle and that's all you're having to deal with. But like you said, a lot of people have lost their jobs over that because
yeah,
now that position is not even there. And
yeah,
we have one of the vendors, one of the employers that come to our school when we do career fair, actually is the person that started that dealership is the place that started the technologist as a position at a dealership. They're the ones
yeah.
that started it because cars got so smart so quickly. Now they have Wi-Fi and they're dealing with Fourier transforms and all this stuff internally, Smith's charts that people don't know anything about, right? But they're dealing with it,
Mm.
and they're the ones that come along and was like, well, we're going to have an additional person. But now, like you said, the manufacturers are tailing everything back.
Mm.
They're paring it back and saying, like you said, it's just a demo person. They drive the
That's it.
car. Here's the price. That's all there is.
Yeah,
Goodbye. See you later. Have a good life. Right.
yeah. That's it. I've shown you the car. Go and deal with the manufacturer for a good price.
Right.
If you want a discount, hopefully you get it from them. You won't get it from me.
Speaking of manufacturers, I wanted to bring this up during this because I think this is a good point.
Go on.
Over here, we have a 70-30 split. Years ago, I found this out. I didn't even look it back up, but I think it's still at least that, or it might be worse. Market share. So 70% aftermarket, 30% dealership working on the vehicles as far as service goes. And the last I checked, it was about $100 billion a year business in the United States alone.
Really?
All these manufacturers, to me personally, and if any of them out there are listening and you steal this idea from me, I want credit for it. I'd like to get some percentage at least. They need to be paying for the maintenances on the vehicles because over here, after the bumper to bumper warranty is done or the maintenance that come with the car is over, they immediately just jettison and go straight to the aftermarket. They have no loyalty whatsoever to the manufacturer or that dealership.
No.
And the dealership and the manufacturers, I mean, they're in bed together. So
Yeah.
it's like you would think the dealer or the manufacturer would get smart about it and say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, when you buy this vehicle, we're going to have that. It's going to go all the way to 100,000 miles at least. That's how
Yeah.
much money could it possibly cost under warranty to do an oil change, some belts, some hoses, coolant, a brake flush here and there. Not that much. And it would keep the car there.
Yeah.
And they'd buy their tires from there.
Yep.
They would get their service done there. They would
It's their
go into
trusted
the
garage again,
aftermarket.
isn't it? Not their local
Yeah,
one. If they
right.
trusted it for the first 5 years, they're going to get another few years.
Yeah.
So
And over here, the whole joke is it's the stealership, right?
yeah, we got there.
And I've
Yeah,
worked at good ones and I've worked at bad ones.
Mhm.
And I mean, the Volkswagen that I worked at, seemed like it was ran pretty on the up. And we tried to make sure customers' cars were fixed the correct way. And I got to be a team lead there. I had 3 people under me that I made one percentage off of whatever labor that they turned also. But what was nice is I got to dispatch to those guys, and I was fair about it. I got a biscuit, you get a biscuit, you get a biscuit. If I get some gravy, you get gravy, right? I tried to keep it in some kind of rotation where it wasn't like only one guy's getting all the hard jobs.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it as even as possible. And man, we just made all kinds of
And
money
again,
from cars
if
doing
you've
that
got
kind
that
of stuff.
control over it, if somebody loves doing
Yeah,
clutches, give them the clutch.
right,
I see too many shops that go, well, he hasn't done one for ages. I'm going to give it to him, but he
right.
hates them, and he's going to be really slow on it.
Yeah,
Give it to the
it's
clutch
gonna
man.
drag out. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I've
but
seen the same thing at Audi when they got the class action lawsuit. I was at Audi as a service advisor,
right.
and we had one guy named Carl. Actually, shout out to Carl. He's out there still working on these things? I guarantee it. That's all he did. Every day he'd come in, he did 4 piston slugs, rings, new seals, new gaskets, put them back together, and he would do a whole job that paid 16 hours. He would do it in about a day, and about 2 hours the next day he'd be driving.
Nice.
That was excellent, and he did amazing work. That's the whole
Yeah.
point too, right? Like you
Yeah.
just
Why
said,
would you give that to somebody else?
right?
Yeah.
Why would you give that to somebody that first off already hates his life,
Yep.
doesn't like, maybe he's not even approachable, right?
Yep.
And then you're going to give him a clutch like they ain't done a clutch in 5 years, like you're saying. It's just upside down.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's been pretty wild.
I bet it has.
So yeah. So what else you got? What else is happening over there? You got this big auto mechanica thing happening. Is there anything else going on over there as far as you said you named 2 very good trainers, it sounds like, that you've got over there?
Yep. Yeah. So Frank Massey, he's retired now. I don't know what his son's doing because they got their own shop as well now. So
Sure.
I don't know. I think they're still doing training, but James Dillon is a very good technical trainer. Mechanic Mindset, he's more online than hands-on.
Yeah.
But his app is very, very good, and it's just auto electrical side of it, and diagnostic side, very, very in depth, and you can refer back to if you know you've got a CAN bus fault coming in, you haven't scrubbed up on it for a little while, just go back and watch it. So that's the only thing. We're going on big training courses. You spend 3 days down there. I was going to sign up for a hybrid course. I think it must have been 12, 13 years ago, and I've never seen one since. It's not a big thing over here. And 6 months after it, the people that did go on it were all questioning it on one of these forums back in the day. Can you remember what he said about that? You need to be able to refresh yourself on it, which is the app side of it is brilliant. So I don't know what's next around the corner. Like I say, my big thing is sort of the YouTube, but I honestly don't know what to do with it. I didn't expect it to be anything. It's building reasonably well, and a friend of mine who showed me everything I needed to know to start off is like, just get your camera, go and record something. You're going to look stupid. You're going to sound like an idiot, and forget it. And just get out there, put it out on YouTube. And the thing is, he's a good-looking lad. So I said to my missus about it, well, you'd think, wouldn't you? And I said to my wife, he's a good-looking lad. It's easy for him, isn't it? She said, well, no women watch him, and you talk to him like a man-to-man, so what difference does it make? People are watching you or watching him. They're not going to go, I'm going to watch him because he's a pretty boy. And I'm like, yeah, you probably got a point. So I just started putting it out there. And he spent a lot of time. He wants to be a YouTuber, and he's doing very well out of it. And there's me done reasonable in a year. We've got 1.5 million views on long-form views. It might be 300,000 hours worth of watch time. And we do okay out of it. And I'm like, it's a bit easy. I don't know if it's for me. And he's like, you're so ungrateful. So I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to be famous. I like talking like this, and I like the work, and it does improve the way you work. If you've got a camera on you, it's like being in an interview and somebody's watching you work. Your boss is stood behind you working. So you try and do that. So it's a good thing to do. But then I'm like, what could I do with it? So if, like I say, I used to do 4 cars a day with my main technician, and now we're down to 3. If the YouTube brings the income up to make it as if we've done 4, that's good. I've sort of slowed the work down. I'm not busting myself.
One washes the other, right?
Yeah, and if it works, it works, and maybe that's why it's sort of built okay, because I'm not in it. We call it Americanized. I'm like, hey, come and watch this, do that. I'm not that. I'm just like, I've got this car in. I'm doing this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
it's the sleazy car salesman stuff, right? That's exactly what it
And I
is.
don't do
And
that. I'm like, this is what we're doing.
I think it's authentic. It has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, people are going to pick up on it right away, and they'll tune straight out. They will not watch it.
And there's a couple of places over your, I can't think who they are. And they are just literally, I've got this in. We're going to be doing that. It's the 440.
Right.
It's this.
Right.
And they get mega views. So, yeah, I think the authentic side of it, and maybe it just comes across so easy for me because I don't care if it works or not. If I get 5 views out of it and 5 people say that was really good, Bob, all well and good. But it's we're getting, like I say, on average, 10,000 views for 14,000 subscribers. That's a high amount. And then, one a couple of weeks ago, probably 3 videos back. It's got like 44,000 views, and I've only got 14,000 subscribers. So it's getting out there to people.
Yeah, that's like 68% viewership. That's
and I'm like, okay,
That's what that is.
But what I thought it would be is people not knowing anything about cars, seeing what I do, and so that's interesting. That's how people fix and diagnose things. That's what that computer does, and it doesn't fix the car. You have to go deeper into it, etc.
Exactly.
But then I went to a trade show.
They're like the cats.
Yeah. And that's what I thought it'd be. But it's not. It's it's trade people. They're all saying, "Yeah, we sit down and watch you." What are you talking about? It's your training is amazing. So I don't do training. Darren does training. He's good. I just say what I say. And they go, no, we relate to that because we've all come from the same background. We've all grown up together, in the same way. And if they can take something from it, again, good luck to them. The other thing I wasn't mindful to not take work off of other people by giving away the information. Don't want to take the cream off people, what I've been dealing with for a long time, just for my own gain or fame or whatever they want to call it. So
exactly.
I'm pretty mindful of it, but again, I don't think people work on the cars anymore. They're going to get the job.
No,
there's more work out there than there is, technicians. So we'll be all right.
Yeah, it's definitely something that they're not doing. And even trying to teach, at the school, I always tell them, to be honest, I'm like, to be a diagnostician out of a class of 38 people, about 5 of you are going to do that. Not all of you are going to do that. No. So you need to pick up on it, and you need to have a foundation in it. But every single one of you are not going to go out there and be diagnosticians. It'd be amazing if they did, because the industry does need them. A year ago now, we had a Ford rep come in. Ford's over the next 4 years, so this will be 3 years now, they were looking at 77,000 people just from attrition and retirement and people leaving the industry that they need just in the next 4 years, just to add back to Ford. And I think that might have been, it was just the United States, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, sounds about
global. Yeah. I know Ford's very large over in the UK, and they've been around for a very long time. Australia, all over the place.
So we've got our own factory over here. We got Ford factory. Yeah. So I assume that must be the same in.
The steering wheel's on the wrong side of the car.
Exactly. But I assume Australia must have their own sort of factory out there as well, do they? And
I would think that they do by now, certainly. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine the money having to barge a bunch of vehicles all over the world just to sell them? I mean, that's got to add quite a bit of cost.
But Germans don't, do they? German cars are all built in Germany and transported to everywhere, do they? You don't have...
No.
You have your own factories over there, do you?
There's some German vehicles built in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Right.
There are some actually built in Mexico.
Right.
And then there are some that are built in union labor over in Germany that do cost more money. Because I owned one of them at one point. Okay. I had a Tiguan R-Line that was a union-built German vehicle that come from Germany. And it's all in the VIN number, of course. It's in the Explosion.
Yeah.
It was a good vehicle. I liked it. I mean, I drove it about 80,000 miles and got rid of it because I knew turbos was very issue with them. And I worked on them. So I knew time of chain, tensioners were getting ready to blow out of them and all that kind of stuff. But I took really good care of it as a tech. But even then, it's like, didn't want to keep it. I didn't want to keep it any longer than that. That was plenty long enough for me. Yeah. So I sent it down the road. But I still have one now. I've got a 2010 Jetta with that straight 5 in it that might as well be an industrial motor. I call it like the LS of, German engines.
Yeah.
It's got 282,000 miles on it. And it fires up, drives every day. I'm probably jinxing it right now. It's probably sitting out there.
Guaranteed it ain't going to start in the morning.
Probably won't. But yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing vehicle. And I don't think I've had a car payment on that thing for 5 years. I bought it used from the dealership I worked at. But I wasn't a Volkswagen guy when I got there. I was a guy that worked on all kinds of stuff and hated Euro cars because in the aftermarket, you can't fix them. There's tools, there's information you don't have, there's scan tools that don't work. I mean, it was really bad. We usually just go down the street to the dealer. They'll be sure to take care of it for you, and you'll get your vehicle fixed the correct way. Just like you were saying about how you stay busy, right?
Yeah.
And once I got there, I got inside the belly of the beast and found out, heck, I got support. I can call somewhere in Farmington Hills, Michigan, here in the States, and I can talk to a technician or a former technician that's done this. I could have the scan tool that actually worked on it. I had a $200,000 set of tools in the back room that I could go and get any specialty tool that I needed as long as somebody else didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
Because that happened quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. And I'm like, wow, the engineering's
That's
actually
it.
like way
If you got the
older.
information, you're laughing. But so well, I don't work. I haven't since I started. Well, probably 2 years into it. We don't work on Chrysler or Jeep because lack of information, lack of tools.
Yep.
Scan tools don't work.
I heard Stellantis has got them up for sale again.
Really?
That's what I heard.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know if that's corroborated or not, but that is what I've heard. Stellantis is decided that they don't want to deal with the Chrysler, Jeep, all that kind of stuff any longer.
But I mean, our Chryslers over here, a lot of them are Mercedes engined and gearbox, and then people just say, well, it's just a Mercedes. No, you've heard that in the press, that it's got a Mercedes metal bit stuck in it, but the electrics and the software are completely different. And that's we just lose time every time. And even if we do manage to diagnose it and we need a control module, we can't program it. So we're stuck. So I'm just sorry, we don't work on them as they turn up.
Yeah.
If they're a taxi,
multiplex systems and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I can figure it out. But like you said, you can't fix it. Not even bother with it.
Yeah. When I've got cars lined up outside, which I can fix, and people can't get the head around me turning them down. Just say, so it's not for me.
I think one of the reasons that your channel is probably so successful is you don't weigh people down with like bullshit like nomenclature, right? Like different words and fancy things and all that kind of stuff. It's like, here's what we're doing. Here's what's going to happen to the vehicle. I want to show you how I've kind of fixed it, and then we're going to show you it running again, right?
Yeah.
I think that is entertaining to people. I mean, like you were saying, people over here in the States, and I want to say Cletus McFarland because I watch a ton of Cletus McFarland stuff, but I learn a lot of stuff off that channel still to this day, especially for drag racing.
Right.
As of 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't even know that there was vehicles that had these hopped up turbo setups on them with a two-step, where you can get the turbo to spool way up right off the line like you almost could never do before. So with the electronics that's come along, they've come a long way. And I'm trying to reach out. I really want to get some people out of the drag racing, out of the hot rodding, the drag and drive stuff that happens over here in the States. I'd like to get a whole nice level of all kinds of different content instead of just automotive, I have a lot of things that I like to do, and it's coming into a question I want to ask you. Things that you do in your spare time that are not automotive related per se. I like studying like quantum mechanics and physics, and I know nothing about it. I'm not very good at math at all. I actually have students that I've been paying to teach me how to do pre-algebra because algebra it slid far away from me in school, and I hated it. And now I absolutely love math. I think it's magic. And
it is
I don't know
clever
anything about it,
but
No. So I'm paying them to do that. Like, hey, tutor me $20 an hour. Like, come and tutor me so I can learn how to do this stuff like that. I want to bring in some things like that. Books, certainly. There's all kinds of books that I've been reading, and Stoicism, Christianity, theology, all this kind of stuff that I think rounds out a really good channel.
There's so interesting topics that if people can relate to you, your guests are great. But we got a big one over here, a young lad, Stephen Bartlett. He went on
CEO,
our Dragon's Den.
Millionaire CEO.
Diary of a CEO.
Yeah, that's it. Diary
of a CEO. And I watch his stuff, one, because I like him. And then while I'm working, I'm in my garage at the moment, at the end of my garden. If I'm in there tinkering with a motorbike, I can put it on, and I don't know who the person is who he's talking to, and they could be talking about any subject.
And ASMR right into your head.
Yeah, and I just put it on, and they might be talking about money. They might be talking about politics, even marriage guidance and things like that. It's stuff I would never click on a marriage guidance video, but I like him. And I know it's going to be an interesting video, so I just put it on. So if you can get interesting people on from all sorts of walks of life, if you're interviewing the same sort of way and the way you talk, and that's again with the YouTube side of it.
They're smuggling that information into you.
Yeah, and it's
smuggled.
Just like that. Yeah, you all get smuggled. So
I stole that from Sam Harris. They talked about Jesus smuggling back when him and Peterson were doing their talks over in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another thing which I really like I relate to. They're both podcasters over here. One is, he actually lives in my town. Rory Sutherland, his name is. Really good at marketing and stuff in the UK.
Okay.
Him and Jimmy Carr, the comedian. Do you know Jimmy
Oh yeah, I
Carr?
love Jimmy Carr. Yeah.
If you watch him on
Yeah,
any podcasts,
he's been
he's
on Kill Tony. It's
very,
another great
very,
podcast that I watch all the time. So
yeah,
I've seen Jimmy Carr a lot.
yeah. He references everything what he says. He'll
Yeah.
say, this person said that, or got this from that book. 'Cause he's a very clever man.
Right.
Most comedians are.
Right.
But he doesn't try to say that he's the clever one. He references other people
Right.
and he said, that person said that. And same as you just said then, that's not mine.
You always have
we
to
got
play
that from
the
somewhere
fool.
else. And
You have to play the fool.
Yeah.
Be
So
aloof. Nothing wrong with it.
no, exactly. So if you can do that
So,
and just say, I've learned this, I think it's brilliant.
right. So there's some stuff that I've been watching and learning as much as I possibly can. Like I've gotten about halfway through Isaac Newton's philosophy and natural philosophy of mathematics and Principia. I got about halfway through the latest version of it, which is like 900 pages long. So I read everything that they figured out about the book, and that was 400 pages. Everything, like Isaac Newton actually done 2 revisions to the same book. I didn't even realize that in his lifetime. He did 2 revisions to it. And then, of course, I end up watching a lot of stuff from the Royal Society. So I watch a lot of stuff about, physics and different things. And I actually just played a video of an older gentleman that's over there that showed them how gasoline, it has to actually mix in with the oxygen before it can give that blue flame, that good explosion, that movement, that thermal expansion, before you can actually use it in a car. And he shows it, just pour it out, light it up, and watch it burn. It's yellow. It's got soot coming off of it. And he does it in just a coffee can, and taps the lid back down, and he lights it from the bottom. Watch that kind of stuff all the time. And I stumbled upon, someone said something about the other day, the man who knew everything. And I'm like, who is that? So I went and looked at Sir Thomas Young. So from across the pond, he's from the UK.
Really?
And I teach James Clerk Maxwell, Michael Faraday. I teach all of those in my classes when I start, and that's not necessarily in our curriculum. But I feel like it's a disservice to the student, because always I ask them, by a show of hands, who in here has heard of Faraday, Clerk Maxwell? Who's heard of Tesla? Not the car, none of that. The actual guy, right? Nikola Tesla from Schmidt from over in Croatia back in the day. It's like, did anybody know anything about these people? And I think it's a terrible disservice to not only the student, but the guys that came before and the girls. I teach them about Marie Curie. So I explained to them, her and her husband, like, they discovered that, these rocks that were laying next to photographic paper, like, they had something going on with them, right? Like, it made that change. So what is that exactly? And I explained the other day to them, like, yeah, she's buried in a lead coffin. They're like, how do you know all this shit? I'm like, do you realize you have, like, all of human knowledge at your fingertips now, but no one will even go look at it?
Yeah.
Like, you're dealing with lemmings.
Yeah.
But you could actually go look some things up before, or like after you're scrolling social media for 5 minutes. Don't take too long there. It'll pull you into it. It's a black hole.
Oh,
it's like, go learn something.
Yeah.
Like, we only have a finite amount of time.
Yep. We got a motorhome. We travel around the UK with little and I that's sort of where the podcasty sort of side of it come from, was go and do some garage visits and go and see the country while doing this, and I think it'd be great. So we end up going to a place, and my wife had said, "Oh, that's Bletchley Park over there. What's that?" So that's the Enigma machine and how they cracked it, and we she said, "Can we go there?" And I was fascinated by it, and I can't think what Alan Turing. So as we went in, we only had 2 hours to sort of kill on the day, and I said to the lady, what's a good thing to see? We will come back because it's a year-long ticket, but what can we see today? So we'll go to the mansion and go to Alan Turing's bunker. This is brilliant, and education. I'll talk about that for months now, because the education of that, but it is just too easy to sit on your phone and scroll now without any education. So when I do get into something, I go down a rabbit hole of, I want to learn about that and learn everything I can about it.
That's where I'm at now with Thomas Young. So
my biggest thing recently was sort of how the tax system works, and how to get into that, and how to be tax efficient in your business.
How they're taking your money.
Yeah. And what I'm not even fussed about what they're doing with it. I just want to know how I can get my money out of my business tax efficiently without breaking the law, and doing it right, and how it all works, and what avenues we can go down. Because people think accountants are going to do that for you, and they don't. Accountants just take your money and say, if you ask them a question, can I do this? Yeah, no problem. That's it.
Well, it's like any other business now, right? It's like there's skills gaps everywhere, especially with the lockdown with COVID. I mean, we've seen it. I still see it with high school students that come out that did most of their high school in like home. They
Yeah,
did it like kind of you and I are right now, which
yeah,
is not the way to actually learn. You still have to have some hands on when you're doing that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Be in the classroom, be with your peers, that kind of thing. Just being holed up in a room is not okay. Yeah, we're still seeing that. So, like you said, they're supposed to do these certain things, but there's tons of stuff that people miss every day.
yeah,
We're still human beings; they make mistakes. But yeah, I would believe the exact same thing. I mean, you should be aware of like what you can and can't do, and like you said, what's the most efficient way that
yeah,
you can keep your money for your own business, for your own family, for your
yeah.
own, your own employees, that kind of thing.
Well, I put a post out yesterday. A friend of mine had put on, we got corporation tax over here. So you're a limited company,
Mm-hmm.
straight away, 25% that goes to the government. There's no stopping it. And that's it. Before you, so
That's
that's
margin.
on your profit. Sorry. No,
That's
that's on,
margin somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but even then, it's like that's a
yeah,
hefty chunk, isn't it?
yeah.
It's not much different here when you figure up all the actual taxes that we do
Yeah,
pay,
and then if
because
you
it's the
take it
same
out your
thing,
company, as soon as we take over, I think 50,000 a year, we're on a
right?
40% tax bracket. So you got 25% before it's come to you, then 40%
Right.
after that.
Yep.
And somebody had put out, it said, I can't believe what the corporation tax is now. And one
Right.
of his friends had put on there, yeah, I can't believe my accountant just told me that I've got to pay that, and I thought I was getting in front. And I was like, that's because you're waiting for
Yeah.
your accountant to tell you what's going to happen. You should have known
Yep.
this from a goal I actually put down. I want to be in that point in 5 years' time. I want that amount of money, or
Right.
pay that off, or pay your house, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and work your way back. How are you going to do that? What's the most tax efficient way? And you tell your accountant, that that's the tax I want to pay this year because I want to earn this amount of money. Then you can go back
Right.
and say, now I need to charge this amount of money per hour, or per year, per month, and work it
Yeah.
down to that. If you're just working hour by hour and putting some money into a bank, and hopefully at the end of the year somebody's going to tell you you've got somewhere you haven't, you
Hope
might as well give
is
up.
not a strategy.
No.
I used
So,
to
so
get told that all the time being a service manager, oh, we hope we do this right there. Stop right there, son. It's hope's not a strategy, right?
yeah,
So you're
yeah,
exactly right. I mean, you have to have some type of goal at least, even if the goal is wrong,
yeah.
it's still better to have
You can
a
change your
goal.
goal, but at least you know what
Sure.
you was going for.
You're
So
exactly
somebody
right.
I watched earlier, he'd said basically some what you just said.
Mhm.
Strategies. I can't think what he'd actually said, but he said, "Till the money's in your bank, the rest of it's all just fallacy. It's all guesswork.
Yep.
When the money's in the bank, that's when you can start working out what you're going to do with it. Until that point, you
Exactly.
know, it's just a
Yeah, I've heard it
guess.
said before that people at the beginning they're trying their best to make as much money as they possibly can, and then they get to a certain point, and all of a sudden now all they're worried about is keeping the money that they have.
Yeah,
So the same thing, there's a teeter totter system that happens with that,
yeah,
where they have to start turning around and looking backwards and going, okay, well, how do I actually protect that and keep it into my bank
yeah,
before you have rent seekers coming along and asking, hey, by the way, because I've had this happen to me here in the States, I get a tax bill and it's from some place called Rita. And I'm like, I don't know anybody named Rita. What the hell is that about, right? Is this some lady that I've never even heard of this? It's the Regional Income Tax Authority. And I'm like, what's that got to do with anything? Oh, well, you go look and you find out about every year or so, every 2 years, they'll just send you a tax form. And if you happen to live in a certain zip code, you have to pay it because the other localities didn't equalize the taxes amongst them, right? So all of a sudden now you have to pay some municipality,
mhm,
like you have to pay them money. And it's about $500 or $600 a year.
yeah,
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like,
yeah,
how is that legal? Well, some politician has come along and they have made these backroom, handshake deals where they voted that you're going to end up paying it. So as long as you start to understand that you're going to pay it,
yeah,
everything's going to be okay, right? Because if you don't, they'll throw you in a cage.
yeah. But so we don't teach any tax or monetary stuff in our schools. I don't. I
Right.
bet you don't, do you?
Not very much. Once students get around eighth, ninth grade, which is already probably way past when it should be being taught pretty intensely. That's when they start getting a little bit of that. So I got back to pre-algebra. When I had an F in pre-algebra my first 6 weeks, my first semester. They come to me and said, we can't leave you in this, you're going to fail. So we're going to put you in consumer math. We're going to teach you how to write checks. And honestly, it's probably the best thing that they could have done for me. However, I still would have liked to have known what I was getting wrong with the rest of it. But that's when you usually start getting it over here. And it's never taught
It's far too
from
late,
parent to child.
No.
It's never taught really that well from the school until you get into maybe post-secondary, colleges, universities, that kind of thing. Then you start getting into this really heavy socioeconomic stuff, and then all of a sudden, Marxism pops up. So they really love Marx over here for some reason. So they go into that quite a bit, and then it's, hate
But that's
the
only
man,
if you've taken that
kill
part
the
of the course.
rich.
It's not mandatory, no?
Yeah. Well, no, it's once you start getting into like Econ 101 and all that kind of stuff, it kind of is mandatory.
Oh,
They
right, okay.
start teaching you Keynesian. They start teaching you in these Keynesian ways where governments can actually make the economy better by just printing more money. It's fake money, right? It's monopoly money. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild, to be honest, how the first thing in our own country, the first thing that they took over was the economy. And that was back when they popped up with the Fed, the Federal Reserve. And
Right.
then, in the 70s, Nixon comes along and takes everything off the gold and silver standard. And in a way, they almost had to because they had already overextended themselves in borrowing against the dollar, which is exactly what they do now to this day still. And even after an election, we still have people just drunk at the switch, at the tiller, right? And they don't know what the hell's going on. And they're perfectly fine with spending as much money as they could possibly print. And it's not even printed any longer. They have to digitize it. They have to move decimal points magically because there's no way physically you could print that much money. We don't have enough cotton and paper to do it.
No.
So
No.
there's no way. Everyone would have no clothes, right? The emperor's got new clothes. No one would have any clothing if they was able to print as much money as they've actually spent.
Yeah.
So it's pretty unbelievable globally what we as a country actually have gotten away with. Because if people really understood what it means to have that backup currency as the dollar, it would happen all over the world like we've seen with BRICS and all these other places starting to pull out. So you know what? I don't want any part of that any longer. Well, we're just going to have our own thing, and we're just going to trade over here with our own monetary policies because modern monetary policy has been unbelievably terrible. MMT, they call it, modern monetary theory. Right. It's just bad. It's bad all the way around.
And do you think Trump will sort that out? Because he's a money man, isn't he?
No, he didn't do it last time.
No.
And I voted for the man. I think he's done some good things, but I think there's some really strong, powerful forces that are there.
Above him.
The president's, above him. It's a figurehead position, right? Even all the way back to Washington. It was only ever really supposed to be a figurehead position. Congress and the Senate were supposed to be the end-all be-all with the courts deciding, and I don't even like this whole Marbury versus Madison stuff that they did, where they're the only place that they're the ones that get to capriciously tell everyone what the Constitution means. That's a load of bunk, right? I don't like any of that stuff. But that was the three branches. The president, even Washington, was like, I want to sign some papers. You're going to pay me for my expenses. I'm not even going to take your money. And when I'm done with 8 years, I'm doing Cincinnati still, and I'm getting the hell out of here, right? Yeah. And it's nothing like that any longer.
But they are just a spokesperson of what's going on behind them, aren't they?
Yeah. That's it.
And that is it.
I have no problem with that. Like, the place should have, the Bible even says, where there's no vision, the people perish, right? And that's true. Where there is no vision, it goes back to the strategies and goals. Where there's no vision, you're bound to actually fail. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
So it's like, we've done that in spades. It's talk about exponential numbers, right? It's off the chart bad.
Yeah. So I don't know if you followed.
No, go ahead.
Did you follow any of our when we had the lockdown? We had Boris Johnson and the Brexit and everything going on.
So, the thing that really struck me the most out of that whole deal was Liz Truss being there for a day.
Yeah, she just done nothing.
I'm definitely not, what would you call it? I'm not as fluent in English politics as a Brit would be, but I definitely pay attention globally.
But yeah, I'm not.
I think it's important.
I don't follow it at all, really. I didn't vote for Brexit. We are out of it, obviously, and we're going to be out of Europe. But then Boris got thrown into it. Boris Johnson, he gets thrown in, lockdown happens, and he's having, he had to sort Brexit out first. And he's gone and done the best he can with what he's been given. But again, he's only the spokesperson to come out and go, these lot behind me have decided this. And then every week,
if you have a shit sandwich at the end of the day, no matter what you put on, it's still gonna taste like a little bit like shit, right?
That's it. Yeah. And he's like, well,
that's exactly
that's the best we could do.
I have sympathy for that, right? I'm empathetic to that because like the same thing, like it's a figurehead thing, right? like these things happen, and Churchill has been being brought back up into the news, and there's been certain podcasters that have said things about Churchill that some people have gotten very, very angry about, and it's like, well, wait a minute, like there are two sides to all of that did happen, and
Yeah,
there's different nuances to all of it.
yeah,
Look, I would never tell anyone that Hitler was great because he wasn't. But when Hitler took over in Germany, Germany needed somebody to come in and try to help fix the finances.
yeah.
And then it went straight off the fucking rails, right? It went
He took it to the
like
extremes.
way extreme, right? And to me personally, everyone's like, well, that's a far right guy. It's like, wait a minute, I think that's a circle more so. Like, there's some people that have no boundaries, and it may seem that way, but they were socialists. It said right in their freaking name. Like, there's a left and then there's a right part of it, sure, but I think it's more circular. Kind of like Hinduism talks about time being a flat circle. We have present, past, and future all kind of happening at the same time. It's like, I think it's that way more so than it is just that it's the right and the left, right? I
Yeah.
think there's people that are reasonable. What did they call it in the Monty Python skit? Constitutional subjects or something like that when they did the old Monty Python skit, which is one of my favorites, by the way.
Yeah, he's
But it's
yeah,
like,
Monty Python's amazing.
yeah. And I grew up on Benny Hill, so I wasn't supposed to be watching it. I was young, but I love Benny Hill. My dad was a big Benny Hill fan, and to the day he died, he was always watching what was it called? Are You Being Served?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
it was the department store show that was
yeah,
on
yeah,
our PBS over here. He
yeah,
loved them. He loved those old English, the dry comedy, right?
yeah.
So he loved that kind of
So
stuff.
did you have? You ain't half hot mum. You ain't. Is it
No,
Alf Garnett? His name was. He was the
no.
most racist white man
Oh yeah,
who had
yeah.
the black man living upstairs with him.
Oh
And
yeah.
you watch it now,
So
you're
it was
like,
like a So it
you
was like
can't.
a
Yeah,
Archie Bunker type deal, making fun of the Polish and the
yeah,
blacks and everybody
yeah,
else when that was on. I grew up in that era. I mean, I remember watching those shows on TV. Like I never had any animosity or hate towards anybody because of their skin color, because of
nah,
that stuff. And there was comedy, and then there was like real life, and the comedy was the brevity and the levity, right? It was just out there.
yeah,
So it's yeah. I never knew of that gentleman that you spoke of. No, never
nah,
heard
no.
of him.
But he's so funny. But he's yeah, racism was another
That would
completely
be
story.
a banned character, canceled character these days.
Yeah, yeah.
They
So
try
only
to do
fools in
it though.
horses. You must have only fools in
No,
horses. You must have not seen that. It's the
no,
biggest thing in
no.
our country.
Oh yeah,
Del Boy, his name is, and he's a London character, and yeah, he's very very good. A load of his stuff's been cancelled just because he
oh yeah.
uses a couple of words in there, which we went to the corner shop and called them what they needed to call them. Yeah, it's a shame, but that's how it was. And people think if you
Well,
delete it, it didn't happen. Surely we
nah,
should be learning
and
from it. Surely,
yeah, yeah. No, we have to learn from it.
Yeah,
And I'm not one of those people that's for running out there and call people names either. But you're exactly right. Just to try to ban it, the sooner it's like the Barbra Streisand effect. As soon as you ban something, it goes through the roof. Like
yeah.
everyone wants to go see what happened. Like that latest song with Kanye West, like praising Hitler and stuff. Like that's about as far as you could possibly get in a song about that kind of stuff. And the
Yeah.
guy's doing it on purpose. Like you can't even sit back and look at it and go, well, he didn't know or whatever. Like he knows what he's doing. The guy's
Oh yeah, anything
he's
like that.
actually
If it's
he's
controversial,
like one of those savant style geniuses, Like he
yeah,
knows what he's doing. He's a music producer.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
knows he grabs onto the couple, 3 or 4 keywords and he
yeah.
knows that they're going to go straight viral. He just does it. And he's
Funny enough,
selling all
somebody said
kinds
to
of
me
stuff.
yesterday. He said about in his videos, he sometimes puts mistakes in on purpose, just so he gets
Right.
people talking about it. He says, so
Sure.
just make the odd little mistake, say
Yep.
offside and near side, round the wrong way on your car, and people will comment on it.
I've had that happen at school for lectures. I'm really, really bad about grammar. And if I'm reading something and it don't flow right, if the mechanics are off, if it's spelled incorrectly, or if they use the wrong word, like I almost physically stop in class because it upsets me so bad. But I've seen that before. And it's like, I'm looking at it and I'm going, we're a post-secondary school. We might be a trade school, but I tell my class, when you come in here, you're at college. You're at college. Like, do you even know what the word college means? And they're like, no one does. I'm like, it means partnership. It means I'm here to train and help you, and you're here also to help train yourself. I'm not going to be able to do every single thing for you. I always like tell them too, I'm not your personal technician. So if you want to bring your vehicle in and work on it, I'm happy to point and click like you're a computer and you do the work, and I will help you as much as I can. But I'm not staying like all the way into the middle of the night and all that kind of stuff. All those days for me are over. I don't do that no more.
And I'm not going to
But
be
I'm
there in the
glad to
shop with you,
help.
you know?
Right. And that's the other thing. Like we do shop leads, we do a classroom lead, we do a tool cage lead. We don't actually have a cage anymore, it's just a box. But we do all that stuff because of we usually run 40 students. We're set up to do 44, but we have 2 instructors. So it's a 1 to 22 at the very top, you know? So
Yeah.
we like to stay around 1 to 16 is a good spot for us, 1 to 15. And
Yeah.
then when it's in the middle of the summer and school hasn't let out yet, we can't get a new group in. Like this time around, we have 3 instructors in my class. I'm the lead. And then we have about 20 students. So they're
Right.
getting more attention than they probably wanted on this phase, right?
Yeah.
But
But they're loving it,
that's how
though,
it
aren't they?
goes. It's just how it ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's good. Cool.
so one last thing I want to definitely ask is what does Bob do when there's nothing left to do in the evening? When you're done, when you're all finished up, what do you like to do to enjoy, to actually unwind from the day?
It hasn't got to that bit yet, I don't think.
Oh, no.
so
You're
I,
working too hard, Bob.
to a degree, so
Yeah.
I, I'm really trying to calm it all down. So I only work
Yeah.
4 days a week, 45 weeks a year. That's it. I won't work
Yep.
anymore. On a Friday, I take
Sure.
my daughter to school and I'll pick her up.
Yep.
Nothing's going to stop me doing that. I brush her hair
Sure.
every morning before I go to work. So I'm up
Sure.
with her, give her a breakfast. I brush her hair, give her a kiss goodbye. So
Right.
that works. And I do my work. But yeah, it's hard to be at home with the wife. She's watching cooking programs and me not
Sure.
thinking about YouTube,
What's happening at the
what's
shop?
going on
Yeah,
at the
what's
shop
going on?
to a degree. I can turn off from customers and problems. That's not an issue. I don't stress
Sure.
over them. I don't wake up at night about them anymore. It's going to
Yep.
happen. I put something out the other week about people what run their business on the breadline. If anything
Yep.
goes wrong, you can't fix it. You can't give the customer
Yep.
the service they deserve if something goes wrong.
I
So you
seen
have to
the
build
ones
that
you made
into
in
it.
the vehicle. Yeah, I seen the ones
Yeah,
you
yeah.
made in the vehicle, and I like that
Exactly.
you shared it because that's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And most
So
people, sadly, they find out too late.
yeah, and they've gone under by that
Yeah.
time. So I've got enough money in the bank. If tomorrow I go in and spike an ECU and it costs me £5,000, I'm not going to even sweat about it. Not that I've got millions of pounds in there, but I can do it and I'll give the customer what they need and I'll build that back up. It's not an issue.
Yep.
So that side of it takes time to learn all that side of it. But yeah, I don't think about it. But thinking about what to do next and what's going to work with the YouTube, where I want to be with the YouTube and things like that. But that's semi my hobby. So
Right.
maybe that's what it is. But
So you're strategizing
yeah, which is
at this
enjoyable.
point.
So that's not
Sure.
too bad.
War gaming.
Yeah.
They'd call it 2,000 years ago, like you're war gaming right now.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I just want to get to a point that I'm going to bring. So we've had all of our children. My youngest is 21 now. He's at uni. Like I say, he's working for IBM and he's fine.
Yep.
And basically, we got to the point in our life where I'd be having a midlife crisis, going out,
Sure.
fast motorbikes, stupid cars, doing stupid stuff without the wife, and it would all go wrong. I can see why it would happen.
Yep.
And
I
then
did all that.
we got this little one come along, and she's brilliant. She was actually our step granddaughter, and we've adopted her. We've got her full time now. So she's my thing. We do today. Picked up a new tool stand and everything. All from Think Car on Friday. She come up there for a day out with me as well. She's 6 years old. She knows nothing about it, but she wants to be with me. And then I had to take it over to my workshop this afternoon. I said, "We're getting in the car and go and do that." Yep, I'll come with you. So she's what I do. But before in lockdown, I bought myself a pit bike, the little small Chinese things with supermoto wheels on it, and they race around the little go-kart tracks around here. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm old enough to do it. If you're doing 30 mile an hour, close to the ground, if you bump into each other, you fall off, it shouldn't hurt too much. It should be all right. And now, since I've never got out on the track on it because it all slowed down.
In the hospital.
That's it.
You and I both know that.
Yeah.
Even a small bump.
It'll be all right. I'll cope with it.
Yeah, it's going to be okay.
But now we've got her. I can't go and rip my ankle apart if I come off. I can't do it. So I've had to give up my hobby type things. And she's too young for me to go and sit on a riverbank with her yet.
Right.
That's going to come in time. So I don't have hobbies.
That riding around with the grandpa thing, that's going to be a lifelong thing. Because I remember doing that with my dad at 8 years old in the summer times. I got to go build fence with him and all of his brothers. So I still remember those days and the money that I made. They actually paid me money. I was pushing a wheelbarrow around. So I remember it. To this day, I still remember it, and I'm real sentimental about it. I think it's amazing that I got to go do that. I was like the luckiest kid in the world back then. Oh, we're going to work today. I got my own lunch pail. Like I got a thermos like everyone else does. This is amazing, right? So yeah, that'll be amazing. That actually stops me at the last question is, what's Bob's and RMS Diagnostics? What's your legacy? And it sounds like you kind of got one. You're kind of working on
That's
it.
it. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm 48. So I'm going to be 60 by the time she's 18. And
Right.
I remember the day that the social services had called me to confirm everything was going on. And they said, and you're okay to bring her up till she's 60. Till she's 18, I'll be 60
Till
at
you're
that
60.
point.
Yep.
I thought, now I've got to make it till I'm 60. And I know too many people what haven't, so I'm like, that's what I've got to do. I've got to make it till I'm 60. And if I can do that and everything's good for her, and even if I'm on my deathbed at 60, and she stands beside me, there's a James Blunt song called Monsters where he's at his dad's deathbed, and he's saying, I'll take over now. If I can get to that point, and she looks at me and says, cheers for that, Dad. I'm good. You go tap out now. That's all I need. I don't need to be a millionaire, have flash cars, Ferraris, affairs, midlife crisis.
Right.
I can lay on my deathbed and they'll say, you done what you could. That's all I need.
Exactly.
Which, I've been too fly by night. I like the hustle and bustle of stuff. And now on my second time around of having children, I've grown up.
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully that's
and a lot of
going to be
a lot of personalities and a lot of people in this industry. We feed off of chaos. I've noticed myself doing this weird thing where like I'm a really bad procrastinator, but I'm also a perfectionist. So I will probably pour over all of this information that we went over and cut it and edit it and do all kinds of stuff to make it as compact as possible so that people will actually watch it, right? But like it's going to be hard for me to hit that submit and share button because I want it to be absolutely perfect, right? So I know exactly.
So you'll never get
exactly
it perfect. That is one thing. No, you'll never get it perfect. And get it out there.
Get close, right?
Yeah.
But I know that about me now. I didn't know that 5-10 years ago, right? And that's a hard thing for someone to come up against, and even like I tell people at my work all the time, I'm really good in small doses. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I can be a lot. Like you start asking me questions about different topics and all different kinds of stuff, and I'll run you down 55 rabbit holes like right now, and your brain will stop, and mine's still going. Like, hey, let's go. What are we waiting on? Let's go, right? So I know that about me too, and that actually works good for this, like you mentioned, gift the gab, right?
Yeah, I think it's great. A friend of mine, he's struggling with getting his business smoothed out. And he's like, oh, what could I do? And that's it. I'm like, we could do this and this and this and this and this, and so passionate about it. And let's get together. And his problem is his wife or girlfriend isn't that interested in what he does. But she doesn't want to know about cars. She's a money woman. Put the numbers in front of her. That's what she's going to understand. It's why I don't really know their numbers. So let's get it done. Let's move on.
Oh, yeah.
And and he said, well, that's not something I'm really interested in. I'm interested in the shop. So you've lost it, Let's change that attitude. And so I'm the one that will run down some sort of rabbit hole of, let's get this.
You pull Adam Smith on the Wealth of Nations. Like, now listen to me. Here's what I want to tell you. Now, here's for you. Get you a pen and paper. You're going to write all this down.
No, I've said, just come out. We're going to sit down. We're going to write it all down. We're going to get it all done. And then I'll follow up with you. I don't need anything out of it. It'd be nice to speak to you, Let's get the wife to make some food and we're going to sit here and we're going to have some fun. And, and again, if you're doing that instead of chasing women and doing stupid stuff, again, that's good. So the next thing I have actually done to try and separate work from home is this week, especially this garage, what I'm in now. If I walk in here, this is where I'm going to edit videos. I'm going to upload them. I'm going to do podcasts. I'm going to be thinking and watching stuff. When I walk out of here, it is not work related. Until I go out in the morning and go to my workshop or come in here, anytime I should be out of these doors, I should be present for the wife or the daughter. It's like whatever we're watching, doing it. I've got to do it.
I'm laying the weight down. When I come back in, I'll pick the weight back up and I'll do the work. And then when I leave, I lay the weight back down and go home. That's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for a lot of people to decipher and split that up. It's hard. So,
but again, they're all, depends what they're chasing, doesn't it? If they want a successful business, they haven't quite got that yet, or they want, they've got money worries or whatever. It is hard to do, and I do. I know how lucky position I'm in, and I've just got to be be grateful for it, really.
Some people they look over their shoulder and they find out that their entire life has passed them away, and
Yeah.
they've been working the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's not fun either. Because
No, a friend of mine.
I've seen people, they retire at 65 and 63 even, and they go home and sit on the couch, and 9 months later they're dead.
Yeah. I've had a couple of stories. One didn't make his first paycheck from his pension. The next one died at his work, his leaving do at the pub. And a friend of mine last year, the 61, I think he was, on a Friday afternoon, 4:00, he'd gone into the office. I've got these funny blotches coming up my arms. I might try and make a doctor's appointment next week. Do you mind?
Right.
They go, why don't you leave early now? Go down the hospital, get them to give you a quick check out. Nobody see him again after that. He never even got home from his work on a Friday afternoon. Gone in there, they've said it's some sort of blood poisoning or something. It's an immune thing, so nobody could go and see him. 6 weeks later, gone. You're like, I'm not having that. So I'm doing as much as I can, as many holidays as I can. And again, I want to go all the time. There's got to be a goal. Well, what's the point of getting up in the morning? So, and I try and put it onto the wife. So what do you want? Just give me something to go for. And I remember once, I think it was last year, early part of last year. So what do you want? Just tell me? She said, I'm okay. We're happy. We're all happy. Right. She said, you're not like our friends. So we got a friend who wants 4 holidays a year. I said, why aren't we doing that? I said, do you want 4 holidays a year? She said, well, I'll take it. I said, just do it then. Book it. If you've booked them, they will come and all that, I'll get it paid for, At least I know where I'm going and we got something going on, but just sitting back, like I say, looking back over your shoulder going, that's gone now, Yeah. So, hopefully that's what it's going to be if I make it to 60.
Exactly. If I do too, the same thing. Yeah. I think that's probably a pretty good place we'll call it a night. And you keep your list of stuff that we didn't go over, and I'll keep mine, and we'll probably do it again.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice. I was expecting it to be you asking me questions, but it's turned into a conversation anyway, which I think there always will be.
It's supposed to be a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. So, next time we'll do it again. I'll get something ready for you, and we'll, like I say, once we've processed what we've spoke about, it'd be good to catch up again. We'll get it back out on my channel and see if we can get it all moving.
Absolutely.